How a stupid, wire-turned P-38s into Zero killers. You about to hear a World War II story where the smallest parts did the loudest talking. Not a new engine, not a new gun, a tiny piece of hardware, just a wire, some pilots joked, that helped flip the script against one of the most feared fighters in the Pacific. Stay with me, because the strongest twist isn't at the front of this story. It's waiting for you at the end. The P-38 Lightning didn't look like anything else in the sky. Two long booms, a central pod, twin turbocharged Allisons snarling through thin air, and all its teeth packed up front. 4.50 caliber machine guns and a 20mm cannon firing straight ahead. No wing convergence, no guessing range. A design built to hit hard and hit true. The Smithsonian's record of the P-38J calls out those very features for a reason. They defined how this fighter fought. Across the ocean, the Mitsubishi A6M Zeros built its legend on the opposite philosophy. Make it light, make it range far, make it turn like a thought. Little armor, minimal self-sealing protection early on. In the hands of a skilled pilot, it could carve a perfect circle around heavier opponents. And too many learned that lesson the hard way. Even official evaluations stressed the Zero's extraordinary low-speed agility and how its controls stiffened at higher speeds. That gap between turns on a dime and can't follow a fast dive is the hinge of our story. Allied doctrine in those early months? Don't turn with a Zero. Don't play its game. Dive, shoot, climb, reset. U.S. Navy and Marine flyers who tested a captured Zero spelled it out in plain terms. Catch the Zero at speed. Don't let it drag you slow. That wasn't bravado. It was survival. And in New Guinea, jungles, mountains, heat, storms like walls. The learning curve was paid for in metal and names. Picture the map. Dobodura, Papua New Guinea. An entire web of airstrips hacked from the green in late 1942 and early 1943. 15 runways, fuel and ammo dumps, revetments carved into red earth. From here and fields like it, 5th Air Force fought a grinding air war. Escorts, patrols, strike after strike against Japanese bases and convoys. The patrol briefings were practical, almost blunt. Don't get slow with a Zero. Keep your energy. Use your lightning strengths. But war isn't a checklist. At 300 miles per hour and 3 GS in a climbing turn with tracer lines flicking past your canopy, theory blurs. Pilots complained, quietly at first, that the early Lightnings didn't roll into a hard turn as fast as they wished. The airplane could be devastating in a boom and zoom, but in a knife fight, it sometimes felt like it arrived half a heartbeat late. Half a heartbeat can be the whole story. So where does the stupid wire come in? Here's the tease. The fix that changed the P-38's reputation in mid-war wasn't about bolting on more horsepower or ripping out entire wings. It lived inside the control system, where cables, pulleys, valves, and, yes, wires decide how quickly an airplane obeys a pilot's hands. A tiny change in how force traveled from stick to aileron began to move the Lightning from never turn with a Zero toward make him regret trying. Not folklore, not garage magic. A hard-won, documented change that Lockheed and the U.S. Army Air Forces rolled into the airplane as the war evolved. We'll get there. To feel why it mattered. Stand on that Dobodura flight line for a second. Heat ached off pierced steel planking. Ground crews checked turbos, ammo drums, intercoolers, and, on the good crews, the rigging that makes ailerons honest. A P-38's genius was central guns and twin-engine reach. Its Achilles heel, early on, was roll authority at the exact moment you needed to snap inside an opponent or reverse away. You don't need to be a test pilot to understand this. If the airplane doesn't start rolling the instant you ask it to, your inside lead evaporates. So does your shot. Meanwhile, the Zero's edge lived in low-speed, flat-turn wizardry. It could pivot and float where heavier fighters wallowed. But it had a tell. As the airspeed climbed, the Zero's ailerons went heavy and its dive limit came early. The U.S. captured Zero reports and later Navy write-ups practically underline this. Force the fight fast and down, and the Zero runs out of control authority. Force it slow and flat, and you're in its web. The P-38 needed one thing to pry the fight into the Lightning's world. Quicker, lighter, more immediate roll response right when the merge got messy. That's the crux. Tiny inputs becoming instant motion. And this is where the truth is better than the myth. You may have heard the viral tale about a rogue mechanic sneaking piano wire into P-38s in New Guinea, the underground tweak that supposedly flipped kill ratios overnight. It's a gripping yarn, but when you go to the technical record and the official manuals, something more important and verifiable emerges. Lockheed and the U.S. Army Air Forces introduced a factory-approved change to the Lightning's aileron system mid-war that dramatically sharpened roll response. It wasn't a bigger gun. It wasn't a new engine. It was a small, almost invisible change in the control pathway, a wire-and-valve world fix that made the airplane answer now instead of in a moment. That's the stupid wire of our title, the humble guts of a control system that rewired how the Lightning fought. Before we pull that system apart and show exactly how it worked and how pilots were told to use it, hit the comments with your take. In a dogfight, would you trade raw turn rate for instant roll, or vice versa? I'm reading what you write down. Let's set the last piece of the stage. The P-38J series, distinguished by those chin radiators under each engine nacelle, brought cooler air to the turbos, more stable power, and incremental improvements that mattered when the fight got hot. Late Block JS and the follow-on LS layered on a set of changes aimed squarely at the Lightning's weak spots: dive control, high-speed stability, and roll authority. None of these were glamorous. All of them were decisive. The official pilot manuals from the period don't read like a movie script. They read like a checklist for survival. And nestled in those pages is the moment our wire steps onto center stage. Oh, here's the promise for the rest of this video. We're going to crack open the control system, show you the exact mid-war modification that transformed the P-38's role at combat speeds, and follow the paper trail, manuals, factory notes, and service guidance to see how it moved from drawing board to jungle strip. Then we'll take that change into the air, how pilots were trained to fight a zero before and after, how doctrine shifted when your roll rate stopped being a liability, and what the kill logs and combat reports from the Southwest Pacific actually say. No tall tales, no invented heroes, just the small, stubborn engineering that turned a beautiful idea into a better fighter, and the tactics that let it bully the bully. If you're ready to see how a stupid, little piece of hardware changed the hands of a giant, stick with me. The reveal starts now. Here's where our title stops sounding like a joke and starts sounding like engineering. A stupid wire is only stupid until it moves a surface at the right millisecond. The P-38's controls began life in a world of cables, pulleys, bell cranks, and tabs, beautifully rigged, but still at the mercy of airflow loads that grew brutal as speed rose. At low speed, the Lightning obeyed with muscle and leverage. At combat speed, the ailerons could feel heavy and late, exactly when a pilot needed an instant snap to knife inside an opponent or break away clean. That half-beat of delay made the difference between I've got him and he's on me. And then the factory answer arrived. Power in the ailerons. The mid-war Lightnings gained a hydraulically boosted aileron system, a compact mix of valve, cylinder, linkages, and yes, wires and lines that turned wrist input into immediate roll at the speeds where hands once ran out of strength. The unit was clever. Under normal loads, it sat quiet. As aerodynamic force piled up on the ailerons, the boost woke and helped, without robbing the pilot of feel. If you've ever driven a car where the steering finally matches your thoughts, you know the sensation pilots described. The airplane stopped negotiating and started answering. There's another piece to this control story that matters: dive recovery flaps. Early P-38s could head downhill so fast that compressibility shoved the nose, stiffened the tail, and left the pilot wrestling a machine that suddenly felt locked in place. The recovery flaps, small surfaces fitted outboard under the wings, changed the airflow just enough to hand back elevator authority and let the Lightning pull out clean. They weren't brakes, they were leverage against physics. Together with boosted ailerons, they attacked the two moments fighters most often lose: the snap to the shot and the pull to safety. Now put that into a fight the Lightning had to win. The Zero's magic lived in low-speed agility. Light structure, generous wing, feather touch controls. At modest speeds, it could turn inside almost anything and make it look easy. But the same design asked a price at the top end. As speed climbed, the Zero's ailerons grew heavy. Roll rate fell off. The limits in a steep dive came early. That's why Allied doctrine hammered the same rule. Don't slow down. Don't play flat. Don't hand the Zero its best game. The new P-38 controls didn't rewrite that rule. They made it easier to live by. When a merge got messy, you could roll sooner, reverse harder, and snap to an angle that used the lightning's strengths, power, stability, and nose-mounted fire, without dropping into the slow, horizontal circle where the Zero danced. Picture a pilot over New Guinea, energy high, bandit crossing. Before the boost, he might roll, wait, then wallow through the last few degrees while the window closed. With the boost live, the roll began now. Now, let him lead with the nose instead of the rudder. Press a quick scissor instead of bleeding into a flat turn, and set up the kind of deflection shot the P-38 centerline guns were born for. The controls didn't make the lightning supernatural. They gave it the timing to be itself at speed. And timing defined the whole theater. Dobodura, an inland spiderweb of strips hacked into heat-baked earth, put the lightning and the Zero on intersecting paths day after day. 15 landing grounds meant sorties by the dozen, escorts and intercepts rising over jungle that swallowed wrecks whole. 5th Air Force ran a relentless schedule from fields like this, and pilots learned quickly what worked. Before boosted ailerons and recovery flaps, the Lightning's advantages were real but brittle. Great in the dive, strong in the climb, steady in gunnery, yet vulnerable in a slow, hard roll at the merge. After the changes, that brittle edge thickened. You could keep the fight fast without the controls turning to stone. You could reverse without broadcasting your intent with a long, lazy bank. You could stay in the envelope where the Zero's best tricks started to fade. If you've ever wondered why pilots obsess over roll rate in the same breath as horsepower, this is why. Roll is aim. Roll is escape. Roll is who gets to decide the next second of the fight. A boost cylinder and a set of lines that look almost laughably simple on a workbench let a twin-engine heavyweight act decisively in the one axis the Zero once owned by default. And yes, the manual backed the practice. Boost on for the speed where hands needed help. Boost off when slow, gear and flaps coming. Because at low speed you wanted pure, unassisted feel. It wasn't a gimmick. It was a standardized, factory-approved tool, born in test, taught in training, and then proven where it counts more than paper ever can. The change didn't erase the Lightning's other chores. Ground crews still bled knuckles on intercoolers and turbos, checked ballistics in the nose, and kept miles of cables perfectly rigged so the boost had a clean path to push through. In the heat at Dobodura, good rigging mattered as much as good luck. A boosted system can only amplify what's correctly aligned. The unsung heroes in that story are the hands on the flight line, chasing friction, adjusting balance tabs, and making sure this stupid wire and its tight-knit family of hardware had nothing in their way. Let's bring the Zero back into the sight picture for a second. Its pilots were trained to bait turns, then snap back across your roll and trap you inside a circle you couldn't escape. That trap depends on prediction, on your opponent taking just long enough to bank that a lead turn becomes a sure thing. Shorten that bank by a heartbeat, and predictions start to break. Suddenly the baited turn doesn't bait. Suddenly the scissor that used to cause an overshoot ends with the Lightning still online. You can almost feel the frustration of a pilot who knows the timing and finds the timing gone. This is the part of the story I love. Nothing about the Lightning's shape changed. No new silhouette. No new headline number. But where hands met hydraulics, where force met flow, the airplane's personality shifted from patient to pouncing. A simple-looking boost unit and a set of lines, literal wires in a hydraulic sense, reframed how a twin-boom fighter survived the worst seconds of a Pacific dogfight. Before we go deeper, I want to hear from you. If you were designing a fighter for that theater, storms, heat, long legs, and an enemy that owned the low-speed circle, what would you prioritize after power? Pure turn or instantaneous roll? Drop your answer below and tell me why. Real choices, real trade-offs, and the best comments are making it into a follow-up. Next up, we'll open the box completely. How the boost unit actually feels, your input. How the bypass and feel link maintain control sense. How the recovery flaps played with the wing's center of pressure, and how pilots were instructed to combine all of it into one repeatable game plan. Then we'll follow that plan up the coast from Dobodura, mission by mission, to see how it played out when the merge got real. Open the lid with me. Let's make the invisible visible. Start at the stick. Your right hand nudges left. In an unboosted system, that motion hauls a line of cables over pulleys, a bell crank pivots, Hinge moments fight back across the aileron, and at high speed the airflow turns everything heavy. In the boosted P-38, that same hand signal does two jobs at once. It moves linkage, and it asks a compact hydraulic unit for help. As aerodynamic load builds on the aileron, the boost wakes up and adds muscle. So the surface starts moving now instead of after you've spent precious fractions of a second overcoming stiffness. The clever part is feel. A feel link and bypass keep you connected so the controls don't go numb. You still sense load, you still sense speed, but the lag between intent and motion shrinks. That shrunken lag is the story. Pilots don't talk about milliseconds, they talk about moments. The split second to reverse, the snap to get lead, the slice that dodges an overshoot. Before the change, the Lightning could be forced into a slow, grudging bank when a fight turned horizontal. After the change, it answered cleanly in the range where the Zeros' ailerons were growing stubborn. The outcome wasn't that the P-38 outturned a Zero in a level, low-speed circle. It was that the Lightning could seize the next move before the Zero pilot could lock in his prediction. Pair that with dive recovery flaps, and you get a machine that behaves in the two scariest windows of air combat. Early Lightnings could charge downhill into compressibility and feel the nose tucking and the controls going iron hard. The small outboard flaps were introduced not to brake, but to nudge the wing's pressure pattern so the pilot got elevator authority back. The new aileron boost gave you the roll you wanted at high indicated airspeeds, and the recovery flaps handed you the pullout you needed to lift. Together, they didn't change doctrine. They made doctrine reliably doable in the chaos of a merge. Now fold in how the manuals taught you to use that. Against a Zero, you were warned not to skid into slow, flat turn fights. Keep speed, use altitude, strike in a slashing attack, and if you got baited into a scissor, make each reversal sharp and brief. Roll, don't wallow. With the boost live at combat speeds, those reversals started and stopped like light switches instead of dimmers. If the opponent tried to lead turn you across your anticipated roll, he now had to account for a roll rate you could actually command under load. A small edge in timing, measured in heartbeats, piled up across a minute-long dogfight. That's why roll is aim. With centerline guns, all your damage flows through the nose. If you can roll to put the nose where it belongs faster than the enemy can change his plan, you control the geometry. You decide when the snapshot becomes a string of hits. The boosted Lightning did not win by flying pretty circles. It won by choosing when not to. Let's take that out of the textbook and put it over Dobodura. The airfield complex sprawled like a toolkit laid out on the jungle floor. Multiple strips, revetments, fuel and ammo snaking in from the coast. Heat turned pierced steel planking into a griddle. Maintenance crews lived in the gap between within limits and feels right. They rigged control cables meticulously because boost only amplifies what the system already gives you. Any slop, any misrigged tab, any binding pulley becomes a tax you pay at the worst moment. In that environment, a fighter's personality is a partnership. The pilot, the hardware, the hands on the line. Sortie after sortie lifted off those red-brown strips. Long-legged escorts, barge hunts, convoy strikes, and interceptions that began as dots and turned into seconds. The Zero's old trap, beta turn, snap across the roll, locked the American into a tightening circle, leaned on a reliable delay in the opponent's bank at high speed. Once the P-38s had the boosted roll, the trap didn't spring as cleanly. A Lightning could flick into and out of bank, keep its energy where it wanted it, and slide the fight upward and faster. Exactly where the Zero's ailerons grew heavy and its dive margins narrowed. There's a reason the captured Zero evaluations kept repeating the same advice. Fight fast, avoid flat turns, use roll and dive to break the opponent's rhythm. They weren't writing poetry. They were handing pilots a path through the envelope where the Zero's magic ran out. The P-38's mid-war control improvements didn't create new magic. They gave disciplined teeth. Zoom in on the hardware once more, because that's our title's heartbeat. Wire sounds throwaway until you see what a control run truly looks like in a wartime airframe. Cable bundles and pushrods, feel springs and valves, pressure lines and mechanical fuses that keep a blown hose from becoming a runaway surface. It's a world of little parts doing big work. A tiny restriction here ensures the pilot still senses load. A linkage there ensures that if the boost disappears, The controls default to manual rather than to chaos. You don't notice any of it when you're coasting in straight and level. You bless all of it when you're reversing at 300 knots with a bandit trying to trap your roll. And that's why this story matters beyond one airplane. The Pacific wasn't kind to imprecision. Rain hammered fabric seals, heat thinned fluids, mud found every hinge. Upgrades that sound like line items. Revised intercooler inlets on the J, recovery flaps on late J and L, boosted ailerons in the later blocks. Read like engineering footnotes, but in practice they were survival notes. They changed which moments were likely to kill you and which were yours to exploit that if you've flown anything, airplane, sim, even a nimble car, you know the difference between I think about it and it happens and I'm still waiting. That waiting is where opponents get inside your plan. Trim that wait, and suddenly the plan is yours again. So let's build the playbook the way pilots were taught to fly it after these changes. Keep the merge fast, keep vertical options open, and expect the bait. If he drags you level, don't feed a long bank. Use a brisk, boosted roll, then unload and extend to reset. If he tries to scissor you into an overshoot, give him a quick reversal rather than a drawn-out arc. Your roll rate at speed is now a weapon, not a compromise. If the fight drops toward a dive and buffeting whispers at the edges of your controls, deploy the recovery flaps by the book to get your elevator authority back. Then climb back into the envelope where your roll advantage matters most. And whenever the snapshot appears, trust the centerline guns. Brief windows can pay off when your nose gets on first. Notice what's missing from that plan. Nowhere are you being promised that the lightning turns tighter than a zero in a slow circle. The changes didn't rewrite physics. They rewrote timing, and timing wins fights. This is the moment I want your thoughts. If you've flown the P-38 in a sim, or studied these combats in detail, which maneuver felt most unlocked by better roll at speed? The high yo-yo, the delayed roll to lead, or a tight rolling scissors? Drop your experience below. You'll help steer a follow-up where we break down the exact sequences frame by frame. Up next, we're going to climb from the engineering bench into the operations log. We'll track how these mid-war improvements filtered from test to training to combat, how units flying from places like Dobodura folded them into everyday tactics, and how Captured Zero lessons and 5th Air Force realities converged into a template that worked. We'll finish by confronting the myth head-on. What's supported by official manuals and factory notes? What isn't? And we'll cap it with one quietly dramatic moment when the Lightning's new control feel turned a no-win merge into a clean escape. Climb with me from the test stand to the sortie log, because an engineering fix doesn't matter until it survives a patrol. First came the briefings. Air crews were walked through the updated procedures. Keep the fight fast, manage energy, and use the new control help where it counts. Instructors hammered familiar truths. Don't settle into flat turns against a nimble opponent, while adding new muscle memory. Make your reversals crisp. Use the boosted roll to command the bank now. And if compressibility shows its teeth in a dive, deploy the recovery flaps by the book and fly out clean. Nothing flashy, just repeatable actions under stress. Then came the line checks. Ground crews rigged cables to perfection, checked tabs, bled the hydraulics, and made sure the boost path was clean. The flak jackets and fuel drums don't make headlines, but without meticulous rigging, the stupid wire and valve world can't deliver that instant obedience. In the heat and grit of New Guinea fields, those checks were the difference between a fighter that theoretically rolled better and one that actually snapped to an angle in time to matter. Now picture a typical day. Long-legged escorts off inland strips, weather building in towers out to sea. Intercepts that begin as specks and end as seconds. The first merge is a test. Does the Lightning hesitate, or does it answer? With boost alive at combat speed, the pilot doesn't waste heartbeats hauling against stiff ailerons. He rolls clean, either to seize a quick shot with centerline guns or to refuse the bait into a slow circle. If the opponent tries the old trick, lead across the American's expected roll and settle inside the turn, the prediction falters. The roll starts earlier, the arc stays tighter, and the geometry that used to trap the Lightning slides just out of reach. Over time, that micro-advantage compounds. One neat reversal here prevents an overshoot. One crisp bank there opens a brief deflection window, and with guns clustered in the nose, a brief window is enough. The fighter's character hasn't changed on paper, but in the seconds that define a fight, it feels different, more decisive, less negotiable. Pilots stop budgeting for a sluggish entry to bank. They budget for choices. Doctrine settles around the hardware. Fast in, fast out remains the spine, but the way you stay fast evolves. No more lingering banks. Make the roll, unload, extend, and reset on your terms. If the opponent insists on a scissors, give him the short, sharp reversals that boosted roll rewards instead of the long arcs that bleed energy. If a dive gets steep and the airframe begins to hum with compressibility, no panic, no tug of war. Use the recovery flaps as intended, recover authority, and climb back to the part of the envelope where your roll advantage bites. And the airfields themselves, those inland complexes hacked from jungle, become quiet proof. When an upgrade is theory, you hear grumbles after landing. It wouldn't bank when I asked. When the upgrade is real, debriefs change tone. I reversed sooner than he expected. That sentence is the fingerprint of timing reclaimed. Through all of this, the story stays honest. The lightning doesn't turn tighter than a lightweight fighter in a slow, level circle, and nobody pretends it does. What changes is when you get to choose. With better roll at speed and clean recovery at the bottom of a dive, the lightning can keep the fight in a part of the sky where the opponent's favorite tricks fade. It's not about winning the circle. It's about refusing to draw it. Hold that idea, because it leads to one encounter that captures the whole transformation in under 10 seconds. A pilot who once would have been pinned in a predictable bank finds himself one move ahead because a stupid bit of hardware took the lag out of his hands. No drama, no miracle, just a roll that starts when he thinks it should. Before we step into that cockpit, I want your take. In a knife-edge moment, which matters most to you? One perfect second of roll on command, or a slightly tighter sustained turn? Tell me why in the comments. Your reasoning helps shape the tactics breakdown we're building next. Strap in for the merge. Sun high, air rough with heat, coastline a smudge off the wing. You catch the glint first, then the shapes, slim wings, round cowlings, coming in smart and level. You keep the nose a hair low, speed tucked under your hand like a coiled rope. He wants you flat. You give him fast. He slides to bait the turn. Old play. Before the upgrade, you'd feel the bank build like wet concrete. Moment lost, angle gone, trap sprung. Today the stick moves, and the airplane moves with it. No debate, no sigh, just bank. The world tilts, and the sight lifts with it. He begins his lead across your expected lag, and finds none. His prediction falls through air. You tap rudder, hold a whisper of back pressure, and there it is, 1 second of geometry that belongs to you. Centerline guns love that second. A short burst, harsh and tidy, and the moment closes. You don't wait to see the end of the story. Energy stays king. Roll clean, unload, extend, and climb back into sky that favors you. He tries again with the scissors. The trick depends on your delay. You don't grant it. Roll, stop, roll, stop. Brisk little decisions that keep your lift vector where you choose. You don't draw the big circles anymore. You draw straight lines between opportunities. Cloud shadow sweeps the wing. You feel the buffet hint in a steep drawdown. The edge where early lightnings once grew stone-heavy. By the book, you touch the recovery flaps, the nose lightens, and the elevator comes back into your hand like an old friend. No drama, no gamble. Back in the envelope where his ailerons go quiet and yours still talk. That's the fight in 10 heartbeats. Not a miracle, not a myth. A system that turns intent into motion when timing matters most. A stupid wire in a world of cables and valves. A feel link that keeps you honest. A compact cylinder that lends muscle exactly when air tries to take it away. And a pair of small flaps that turn a vertical prayer into a controlled recovery. Add disciplined tactics and careful rigging, and the lightning stops asking permission to be itself. Zoom out, and you see how the change seeped into routine. Briefings stopped hedging around sluggish roll at speed. Instructors taught crisp reversals as a habit, not a hope. Debriefs traded, I couldn't get the bank in time, for I reversed before he expected. Ground crews chased slack, friction, and binding like enemies, because boost amplifies everything, good and bad. In the logbooks, the notes weren't grand. They were practical. Control response satisfactory at high IS. Recovery flaps effective in steep dives. recommend continued emphasis on energy tactics. Quiet lines that add up to lives. Across the water, the opponent still owned the low, slow circle on paper. In practice, the fight didn't linger there as often. When it threatened to, you had the tools to refuse. The Zero's strengths never vanished. Yours just arrived on time. That's the difference a small part makes in a big war. Not a new destiny, but a new choice. And this is the twist I promised at the start. The hero isn't horsepower or a headline speed. It's timing, recaptured by little parts most viewers never see. The stupid wire in a boosted aileron circuit. The small surfaces tucked under a wing. The careful hands that set cable tension on a hot strip at Dobodura. Together, they move the fight a few seconds in your favor. A few seconds is everything. So here's my question for you, and I want you to answer it in the comments. What other tiny, easily overlooked change from World War II do you think punched above its weight? A tab, a lens, a switch? Drop your pick and tell me why. It might be the next deep dive we do here if this story gave you a new way to see the P-38 and how small decisions turn into big outcomes. Tap like, it genuinely helps. Subscribe for more clear, source-grounded WW2 investigations, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. And tell me where you're watching from and which fighter, ship, or tactic you want unraveled next. Your ideas steer this channel.